What?
Okay, shot 5.7, take 1.
Cool. So we're gonna talk a bit about CVs now. I guess it's the boring part of this talk, but still important. We've hinted, your portfolio, your work is way more important than your CV, but you still have to have a CV, and there, Wynand, I guess it's just keeping it simple.
Yeah, 100%.
And don't overthink it.
No, please. I think the one thing that I'm very critical on is if you are applying for a design role and I receive your portfolio and your CV in Word, I'm going to judge you hard. Like, that's a big no-no for me. You have the design skills, so show them off by typesetting and laying out your CV and your portfolio properly.
Yeah, same for writers. We also employ copywriters. If you've got a couple of typos on your CV, I guess you won't hear from me again. But education is important. Show me if you've graduated or which high school you've been to. It's always good to go, oh, this guy was in this high school, I can talk some shit about rugby or cricket whilst we're there. Your experience is important. And I know you guys probably don't have a lot, but even if you have flipped burgers or did some odd jobs, landscaping, whatever, put it in. It's a sign that you're willing to graft if you've done some work in agencies, that's always great in that line of work. It always shows that you've been somewhere. And again, try and make it interesting, but keep it short, because we scan many CVs during a month, and the ones that are 5 pages long, we don't get through them.
Yeah, and I think also one thing that I've seen is CVs elaborating too much potentially. Like, it's good to know if you were the high school captain of a certain sports team, but if you're applying for a design position, that might say you might take initiative, but I don't think it's really important. So almost try and nitpick the very important things that you want to include in your CV that you think might be relevant in persuading a potential employer of your skill set. If you are good at washing cars, that's not something that I would put on a CV necessarily for a design job. Different story if you want to apply at the car wash. But yeah.
Cool, so let's get to the interview. So usually the process, we've seen a couple of CVs, loved your portie, and then we usually make contact and say, come on over, let's have a chat. And I guess the first thing is just don't be too nervous. See it as a chance to get to know the company. As much as we are interviewing you, you're interviewing us as well. If you get in there and it's not your vibe, then there must be a reason for it. But again, don't be too nervous.
Also, don't be late.
Yeah, don't be late. If you cancel a couple of times, I guess, it won't happen.
Yeah.
But I guess sometimes, like a first date, it can be kind of awkward, but just go with it.
Yeah.
I think as soon as you get to know the person, and you also see that we're not robots or tyrants or whatever, it gets easier. Yeah.
No, I think that's a very important point. A lot of students don't understand that an interview process is actually a two-way street. You get to ask some questions as well as the employer.
Yeah.
So that's a time for you to also suss out if this is an environment that you want to be a part of, if these are the kind of people that you would like to learn from and take direction from, and make sure that you are able to express and ask those questions in the interview process. If I sometimes think it's a red flag when students aren't given, or potential employees aren't given the chance to actually ask the interviewers questions, because I think, like I say, that's a two-way street. it's a mutual agreement that both have to accept the offer and the employee.
Yeah.
So make sure that interview works for you as well.
And then try and be as transparent as you can. I mean, if you don't have a car and you will struggle to get there, tell the guys, but try and be proactive and say, I've got this solution, or I'm trying to organize a lift club, or if there's specifics and you really feel that you're worthy of a paid internship, discuss it. If the employer says they don't offer paid internships, try and negotiate. I think you do have that power. We try to take on board paid internships as much as we can,
Yeah.
especially if we know students travel far. We try our best, but sometimes schools just want to place students as part of their degree, and that's a different story.
Yeah.
Cool, and then I guess we're getting into, once you've got the job, to keep it or to convert it into from an internship
Yeah.
to a full paid job.
Yeah. So I think the most important part is you've probably gone through the process of looking at your prospective employer, an agency that you want to join. You've aced the interview, now you get to work in the studio. So I think the first part when you actually get to join on the first day, you'll most likely you most likely will have signed or gone into some form of agreement, which you should take the time to read to see that there's nothing dodgy in there. That the company's not expecting you to do anything that you don't want to do, or that you feel is not within bounds or reasonable ask, but generally the contracts are quite standard. You'll be given a 3-month probation period, so that's used for almost as a cooling off period. So we basically have now given you the opportunity to prove yourself as an employee, and also use those 3 months then to suss out if the agency is the right fit for you and that you indeed have made the right decision. So use the probation period to kind of get to know people, kind of understand their roles within the agency, even if they're not within your department. Try and see how the puzzle fits together, because this is a learning experience, and especially if it's your first job, it's great to understand that copywriters and art directors hang together, and there's a reason for that. They need to come up with ideas together, or that's the head of traffic and she's the one that's gonna basically rule your life and assign you jobs. So be kind to her, be nice to her, all those things, because agencies do have their own little politics, and I guess understanding the hierarchy and the structure a little bit helps you figure out who you need to impress and when do you kind of need to ask a favor, who you can approach.
Yeah, and I guess whether you're an intern or you've just signed your first contract, you just can't sit back. If you think now I'm set, and I'm not just saying about sitting back to not show your skill, you have to really go and hunt for jobs if there's nothing on your table that morning. Be proactive, talk to people, try and help out, because I guess we've seen a couple of youngsters come and go, and it's usually the ones that are really just keen to work hard and get their hands dirty and help out wherever they can, that stays longer and that we want to keep.
Yeah, 100%.
But we've also seen people who sit back, and that usually ends with a very short stint at an agency.
Yeah. Thank you, goodbye.
And then I guess before we go into some quick facts and myths and stuff like that, if it's not your cup of tea, leave. No job is forcing you to stay there. I think that's a thing that I learned when I joined the job market. I started at a cool small agency, but within a couple of months I just said, this is not me, and
You went out hunting.
If you do that too much, your CV will show it and you'll look like a job hopper. But no matter where you are in your career, if it's just not your vibe, if you're unhappy, don't stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I remember like going to an interview, it was 4 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, I studied in Potch, so it took me an hour and a half to get to the interview through Joburg traffic, which I didn't really know existed back then. And the interviewer spent literally 5 minutes paging through my portfolio and letting me know that I was fit to work in a big blue store.
Printing t-shirts.
Printing t-shirts, right, that's not even close to advertising. So needless to say, after the research, I just got a sense that that wasn't a good fit, and I was actually happy that they didn't make an offer. So you might get some weird interviews in the process, but just keep at it, because those can be very disheartening. It's like you spend 2 hours to get to an interview and you spend 5 minutes in the room with the person. So yeah, just keep at it. And just like when you start your first job, you might have some weird first briefs that might go wrong, you might make mistakes, but understand where you can correct them and just keep going and just try your best.
Cool. Should we cut there?
Yeah,
Let's go.
can we-
We were
Yeah.
just